Polyamory, courage to embrace what God has joined together. Welcome to the Priceless Podcast.
I have two names. So my official name is female. It's Olga Gerasimenko. I counsel quite some people in polyamorous relationships and polyamorous parents. And my name that a lot of my friends and significant others use is Lyoshka, which is a male name from my childhood. A big part of my knowledge comes from my personal life experience and from the involvement in the community.
My name is Frans. My full name is Frans Blokhuis. I'm from Amsterdam, from the Netherlands. I'm 28 years old. Yeah, and I don't have a professional background in polyamory like Lyoshka, but I do practice it, so I guess that's why I'm here. I think my whole polyamorous situation has been a big elephant in the room for a long time in my family. With some of my sisters, I've been able to talk about these things right from the start because they are pretty much on the same page. With my parents, especially, it has been a bit more difficult, where I kind of felt closeted again for a bit, and that was not a pleasant feeling. I've introduced Manoj also to my parents, and actually they are pretty open to it. I think they don't sort of celebrate it. So whenever I share something with them about my polyamorous life, or whenever I would tell them that I'm in love, they're like, oh, okay. And there's no confetti. And they also say this to me, like, we find it hard to really celebrate with you, but it's okay. And you can, as long as you just be open about it, we're in a good place, and there is a lot of mutual respect, and I think that's a good starting point.
I remember one of my faith communities, like going with hearts on Zoom when I mentioned that me and a dear person are now kind of picking up and started dating from being friends, and it was such a warm feeling, such a feeling of being embraced. Family-wise, I have a wonderful chosen family where I feel very secure. There is stigma, and the stigma shows in a way, and it's sometimes quite hard to be exposed to it. And basically this also depends on how exhausted, how worn out you are from the stigma in your life, because when it's not much, maybe it doesn't hurt so much, but when it kind of gets to you and under your skin, when it's too much of it, then even small things hurt. Sometimes I've been embraced, by the Orthodox people quite a bit, and not always maybe from the point of really getting a clue, really understanding or whatever, but from the point of love. And that's so important. And I think it's also kind of something very mutual, very reciprocated.
Asking questions in general is not a bad thing, as long as you maybe ask if it's okay to ask that question.
Mm-hmm. When people want to ask more questions, and when they come from the point where they're genuinely interested, and
exactly. Yeah.
Don't ask questions to kind of to put down or to measure or to evaluate, then it's very good when questions are asked.
Love times love that you feel when your partners are being are being loving to each other. It's a beautiful feeling. Another thing that brings me joy is, I would say, sort of the fact that I know that I'm gonna fall in love in the future, and it's gonna be fun, and it's something to look forward to in a sense, although it's just gonna happen when it's gonna happen. But I like to have this sort of idea that I haven't met everybody that I'm gonna love yet.
I don't have really a strong preference. Polyamory is more cool than monogamy. Well, it's not. It's just truth about my life, and I enjoy when people live truth about their lives. But it's definitely something I'm wired for, because I'm so wired for compassion. I'm so wired for being open to the relationships. It's this joy of seeing all those people in my life, being happy to be part of it, to finding some way to be part of it. Maybe it's also, all this freedom to be yourself, freedom to find all those different solutions, to be very flexible. This learning and this hard work that comes with it, and this honesty is also something I enjoy enormously. When you talk about polyamory, there are plenty of those misconceptions. One is you're told that it's so hard work, and it's so much about just laying back in the arms of people that love you, and enjoying the miracles that just fall, from the sky or from, the arms of people that love you.
I think one of the biggest misconceptions, and this is also something that I was thinking a lot when I was introduced to polyamory at first, is this whole idea that the more partners you have, the more shallow the relationships are somehow. So the less intimate you really get. You can get the most intimacy out of one relationship, and if it's shared over more than one person, then it becomes less and less intimate. Love is not something that is scarce. You can never sort of give your last piece of love to someone. Love is abundance. There's an infinite resource of love. And there's always more love to share with people. And especially if you share it, I think it will multiply. It will become more. I think that's a beautiful image.
Coming from this exclusivity that is so rooted in our culture, it is somehow supposed by the people outside often that you have this rivalry with your metamours who are your partner's partners. Of course, one of the misconceptions is that you don't have jealousy when you're polyamorous. Of course, we are having heaps of jealousy, and it gets worse when it's like more insecurity. How you deal with jealousy, you talk through that and you go through that, and you don't try to stuff it away, to put it away, or to find some context where you don't feel it. You trust it when you feel it. And you can't say, we had this agreement, so I'm doing that no matter what you feel. It matters what you feel, even if we had this agreement. If the person who is in a relationship with you is feeling unhappy, is feeling insecure, is feeling sad, pay attention to that. You don't say, that's the agreements we're having and I don't bother, you do bother.
Before we continue, we'll take a short break. We'll be back in 30-ish seconds, so stay with us.
I'm thinking about different ways how to engage more people in supporting this podcast. And some people said, be more aggressive. Hey you! Support this podcast or I will... Well, I tried, but it didn't work that well. So if you want to become a supporter of this podcast, please click one of the links in the podcast description.
Well, of course, we live in a monogamous culture, or at least I do here, even in Amsterdam. A challenge is that there is not a lot of resources out there for you to really navigate polyamory and to understand how this works and how all these different relationships work. If I turn on the TV, I always get to see monogamous couples. If I listen to pop music, they always sing about monogamous love. And so you really have to sort of invent your own wheel, so to say, and sort of, figure it out as you go.
Of course, there's stigma, and stigma is very hard, it's this stigma in the society. But this being judged as though you're looking for exclusivity, that's something exhausting. And I would so much love for us people seeing where we are, and when we are being honest with each other and talking from our hearts, to just listen to what we are talking and not to think what we are hinting at, or kind of what could be behind it.
For me, that was a big struggle, I think, especially with my parents, where I felt like I wasn't taken seriously. I felt like they were only worrying about me and maybe saw this as some kind of rebellious phase. Like, oh, Frans is now in Amsterdam doing his sort of catching up with his teenage years because he spent them in the closet. No, for me it's super serious, and I really I thought about it and I read about it and I did a lot of study and research, and it's about very strong feelings that I have and people that are super important to me in my life. So I would love to see more representation in the media, more diverse representation as well. I would love to see stories, television shows, movies where polyamory is just there and it's not really the main topic of the medium of the movie or of the television show. The way we organize our society is really built around couples of two. If we look at our economical systems, marriage, all these things, it is not possible to legally have more than two partners. So yeah, that would definitely be nice if that would change. If we stopped raising our kids with the idea that with sort of the Disney Prince Charming meets the princess image of monogamous love, I think we can create a generation of people who are a lot freer and maybe also a lot more secure about themselves.
If you're entering, from the point of your partner, having your partner and your partner not being sure about polyamory or not being polyamorous, for me it is very crucial to share the mess, not to come up to your partners with ready-made solutions, something like this. To say what is alive in you, what some nonviolent communication people say, and to listen to what is alive in them, and to believe there is a path. There is a path for you. Maybe this path doesn't look like what you believe now it should look like. But that is kind of the whole thing about relationships, that we do not know where the path leads us.
It's okay to have those feelings. I think a lot of people would immediately feel a lot of guilt or feel like there's something wrong, something's the matter, something's wrong with their existing relationship. It's not, and that's the great news of polyamory, is that you can definitely have these feelings for multiple people at the same time, so don't worry too much about that. I would definitely recommend trying to have those difficult conversations with your partner about this and be honest with them. It's very important to always keep in mind that this new person, this new love interest, is also a person with feelings and with fears and is actually very vulnerable by sort of entering your existing love life and your relationship. I think a lot of couples who open up their relationship, they develop feelings for someone and there is this sense of attachment with this new person. But then as soon as it gets too intimate for them, or if they feel like it's out of their control, they fall back to those rules that they had set up. Like, okay, you know what? I want to end it right here, right now. I'm using my sort of veto right. I'm telling him to end this relationship with this new person. And then what happens is that the new person is on their own again. Before you sort of delve into it and really sort of limitlessly date and try to start with really investigating and also being really honest about the fears and the insecurities that you have. Read about it and listen to podcasts like this one and sort of make an effort to really do some research.
Thank you, dear listeners and viewers, for being with us, for watching this. As always, the links for this topic will be in the podcast description. This podcast was made in partnership with the European Forum of LGBT Christian Groups. Subscribe, like, comment. Of course, I would encourage you to be respectful. And just suggest this podcast to other people, that they listen to it, that people that might find this helpful. thank you, everyone, and see you for the next episode. Bye, everyone, and bye, Franz.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for your curiosity. It was very nice to have this conversation with you.